myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, the perfect start to your NUFC weekend. Steve Hasty and I are here. No Mitch tonight, having a week off. Keith Patterson is on his way. He's at a hotel. I've just had a text from him to say so. Keith is on his way. But as always, plenty to talk about for the next couple of hours. And football is coming home, but it's coming home to St James's Park, Steve. So we don't have to worry about penalties and anything like that. It's a friendly tomorrow, which I'm sure we'll get onto a little bit later in the show. But Steve, first of all, something which I know you and I could probably talk about for the next half hour on our own, to be honest. And Chris Mark come in quite early with this one about the Club World Cup bollocks, as he politely calls it. It's yet another money-making scheme, isn't it? Probably by the same people who wanted us to set up the European Super League. Money first, players second, fans last. What the hell is this all about, Steve?
You know, my first thought was, this is Gianni Infantino bringing in his own European Super League under a different head, and something to keep a bunch of European Super League supporting clubs happy, especially after it coming and the announcement coming only a day after the European Parliament's inquiry that said that the European Super League couldn't happen, and then that UEFA were in their rights. But this is FIFA. It's not UEFA. This is FIFA getting in ahead of UEFA and now trying to take control of clubs. You know, so they've already got control of the countries. Now they're trying to bring in their own tournament. And it's kind of like a European Super League, but with invited guests from all around the world. You know, you'll have clubs from South America, you'll have clubs from the Far East, you'll have clubs from the Middle East, you'll have clubs from Central Europe, you'll have clubs from Western Europe, from Eastern Europe, and probably from the USA as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. For me, it's just another sort of smash and grab by FIFA, smash and grab by Infantino. You heard him today. I mean, dear me, he starts off apparently in 2018, the best World Cup ever was the World Cup in Russia. Today, the best World Cup ever is the World Cup in Qatar. You know, he's like Mr. Ben, isn't he? You know, he changes his suits to suit the situation. You reminded me of that woman that used to come on, and for the older people might remember, some of our older viewers, even you might remember, Steve, on the Morecambe and Wise show, when the lady used to appear at the end of the program and she was, "Oh, I love you all. I love you all." And that's what he was like today. You know, you're all brilliant. I love you all. You've done a fantastic World Cup. Just repeating what he said the last time he had a bit of time in front of the cameras in 2018. You guys are completing that joke. But you know what is also happening, which is just as important with FIFA, is that we've now got the situation of the closed shop. We thought we were getting away, didn't we, from the likes of Sepp Blatter, who reigned supreme for so long. You know, I think he had 3 or 4 completely sort of wrapped up, absolutely boxed off presidencies throughout his period. Infantino, he's already been voted for a second, and now he's going to be voted in, or has been voted in, it looks like, for another period of time, which could probably see him for the next 9 years running FIFA. The very thing that he said he wanted to get away from, which was the fiefdom that Sepp Blatter and his people brought in. Now Infantino, once his feet are under the table, is doing exactly the same. And he's done it worldwide by offering not only something for countries, but also something for clubs. Masterstroke from his point of view and perspective. I just wonder how you're going to fill in all these games, Steve. How is the calendar going to fit in a 32-game club tournament? Is it going to be a winter tournament, I wonder? Is it going to be always based perhaps in Qatar? Where it just so happens that Infantino has a lovely mansion provided by the Qatari authorities. Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see how it develops. And it's going to be interesting to see how UEFA react, because this is impacting not only on the clubs in the leagues that we run, but also on the UEFA Champions League because it's competition for that.
Yeah, it's crazy, to be honest. It's just another tournament. Pablo says he used to like the CWC with the Euro champ winners and the Americas. It was great to see teams like Boca and Sao Paulo, etc. But yeah, I mean, I can understand something like that being of interest, but it is just another competition. And like Steve says, when on earth can we, cram this in? It just, none of it really makes sense. None of it makes sense at all. And maybe it's just somebody, getting their, getting their face in the papers. It's sometimes as daft as that, you know what I mean? Just making noise for the sake of making noise because they've enjoyed the bit of publicity they've had from the World Cup. So let's continue it, let's say something else, and dipping their toe in the water. They might have been approached by somebody to do this. And, where there's these kind of competitions, there's money and there's big backing. And it could just be people trying to get in the back door, But yeah, look, it is crazy and so cynical. Steve says, Chris, I'm sure he has mansions in many corrupt countries. And it is too crowded, Pablo. I love the passion of it, but it will be finance driven 100%, mate. 100%. There's no doubt about that. Okay. If you've got any points or questions that you want us to raise, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll try and get to some of them. I did have a couple which I saved because sometimes people do send us a question and send us a message on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Good evening, Keith.
Hi, how are you doing? All right?
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. Well, I'll tell you what, Keith. I'll give you the opportunity just to talk about this new competition that Infantino has mentioned today. A 32 team, was it, or 32 game competition that he suggested running today. In 3 years' time. I mean, it's another money-making scheme, Keith. Another attempt to drive some kind of, finance towards, some games. And Steve's just made a really valid point. I mean, where do we squeeze all these games in if we do these kind of things?
I think when you say the inconvenience caused by putting the World Cup in a country that requires it to be played at Christmas, I don't think you'll get a better example demonstrated what Qatar's just done. And in years to come, I think it's got to be considered, taking into consideration that they've got to think of fans, they've got to think of people travelling, but they've also got to think of other leagues, because these leagues are competed by businesses, companies, rather than just sports people. It's big business. It's multi-billion pound business now. So to turn around and say, well, the traditional 4-year cup is going to be scrapped, a bit like the ESL would devalue the FA Cup, and a bit like they would scrap the Carabao Cup, and a bit like they would do it. They've got to stop and realise that this is it's nothing without supporters. And whilst there's a lot of money to be made, there's a question to be asked as to whether they just act sensibly. Because what difference will it make? I mean, I know over 12 years, if you do it every 3 years, you get 4 World Cups rather than the current 3. But is it doable? Is it feasible? And for me, I just think they're getting it. I think money's coming first. I saw with interest the spat between the ESL people and the FIFA and UEFA people. It's just gone to judgment, and there's an opinion come out of that. And it all hinges on money. The ESL, of all people, being a cartel, have taken UEFA and FIFA on as being anti-competitive. It's staggering. Like John Allen said yesterday. He said, until the takeover, during the takeover, people said that the competition law wouldn't come into it. And it's amazing where everybody's now jumped onto competition law and everybody's trying to use that as a means of getting their own way. When you talk about World Cups, and you talk about, FIFA and UEFA appear to have won the first round because the challenge put to them about anti-competitive behaviour is going to be thrown out. It's going to be thrown out, and ESL will lose, and that could be the final nail in the ESL coffin. That said, within a day of that coming out, Infantino can turn around and says, "Well, no, we're going to have 4 World Cups every 12 years rather than 3," and it's I don't know, it's staggering, Steve. I'm not too sure. It's been a fascinating World Cup, but there's been a lot wrong with it as well. There's been a lot of things wrong with it. And for him to go in for the kill and announce another mini World Cup is just staggering. And it'd be, before long, I think there's a danger. I think you'll find that it won't be just Carabao Cup. I think it'll be the Premier League. I think the games of playing each team twice in a season will get challenged. I think our own leagues will get challenged. So Steve Hasty lit the right on the button. You know, he's. I'm not going to say you're traditionally, Steve, but I think you appreciate everything that's good that's right with the modern game. And I think if these people come in and carte blanche, just do what they fancy, I don't think you'll recognise football in 10 years. I don't think it'll even look like the game that we've supported.
Yeah, talking about new owners coming in, Steve. Bournemouth got a new owner, American.
American.
Surprise, surprise. Just remind us, Steve, was it 18 months, 12 months? How long did that take?
8 weeks.
Wow.
8 weeks. I think it started in, I think it was announced in October. And here we are at the beginning of December or the middle of December. And it's been ratified. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. The guy's come in and he said he's already warned the partners that he brought in that he acts as a dictator. And it's his word or the high road. This is interesting. It's going to be quite a power struggle there, but it's also going to be very, very interesting for how it evolves within the Premier League itself, within the board, and among the clubs. Because I think there's going to be a power struggle starting soon. I think there's going to be quite a battle taking place. I think the demand for change. It's interesting that just at this point, the government was talking again about legislating for bringing in their own regulator and saying that, yes, what was in the Tracy Crouch review will be implemented, but it's not going to be until 2024. Could be too late by then, you know, because these guys know what they're doing. These guys will drive a coach and horses through any rules or regulations or new laws that people try to impose on them. And I don't think we really have an idea of what this regulator is going to be powered with or empowered with, and what powers they will be granted, and how they'll be able to control the money men. I think it's very, very difficult. We've seen with Ofgem and we've seen with all the other regulatory bodies how difficult it is. I mean, you look at Ofgem and they'll just turn around and go, oh yeah, just put the prices up. Oh yeah, just put the prices up. Will the football regulator be exactly the same? Will he just go, yeah, okay, fair enough? I don't understand it, because at the end of the day, the big issue with the football regulation is that everybody needs to sort out is the financial aspect of how the game's run, and what the financial backing that owners have, where the money's coming from, what they're doing with it. It's not so much in the Premier League as lower down the leagues, where you see what's happened to clubs like Wigan and Bury and clubs like that. Clubs that have been forced into administration or basically destroyed because the way the owners have taken control of the club and then destroyed it. That's where the FSA and where most of the football fans seem to be concerning themselves. But it's what's happening at the very top. That's what's happened. That's what worries me. And you're right, Dave Spike, you will be selling black bin bags on offer.
Yeah, Keith, I mean, that takeover going through in 8 weeks, I mean, you know, it's a travesty, isn't it, really? I mean, you know, how can due diligence be done in such a short space of time when ours dragged on for so long? I know ours was completely different in a lot of respects, but a takeover is a takeover. And I mean, you know, you would have thought that they would have at least, strung it out a little bit longer.
I think that the answer is simple. Now that it's over with, we can say things that we couldn't say then. The reason the takeover goes through in 8 weeks is because a natural takeover in a business with the speed of work and the fact that we've got digital references and digital financing checks can be made, it realistically is a 4-week process. That's how long a takeover should take. It should be a 4-week process, maximum 8 weeks. But the reason that you look at ours and say what went wrong there is because you had a cartel of 6 companies working with the 7th company in Qatar, working with the EPL. So it's eight businesses working together in a cartel, illegally trying to stop a takeover. So it wasn't a case of how long ours took to go through. It was how long they could prolong ours and how illegally they could act to prevent ours going through. So I would never look at our takeover and judge it on the time it took. It was a scam. If they'd gone into a courtroom, it would have smashed them to pieces. You wouldn't. The EPL, if they'd gone to a courtroom and been found guilty of the cartel that Boris Johnson called them, wouldn't be recognisable in the body of the end of the day. They avoided a major bullet. But the time for ours was they tried for 1.5 years to derail it. And at that point, I think the likes of Nick DeMarco sat them down and said, you need to settle this. You need to prevent these cases going into court. And I don't think they'd ever would have settled it in an arbitration because they'd have had a 2-1 majority on the bench. But they knew that the public, and we find out later on, even the government was supportive of it. But it's intriguing, Steve, that you say that, because today we sit in a world. Think of the last 6 months. We've been abused for 6 months about being Saudi owned and about taking dirty money, about human rights and all the things. Have I mistaken something? Is Man United not praying for KSA or Saudi money now? Is everybody not trying to get Middle Eastern money? Are Liverpool not trying to get Middle Eastern money? I think they're all trying to do it. And what's come out is when the Glazers looked for funding for 700 million, they went to Saudis. I mean, our Romans confirmed that. And they backhailed it. They didn't want 30% of Man United for 700 million. Why would you? Why would you not take a club further up the league than them for 300 million? Then secondly, Liverpool, they had a reasonable owner. Their owners were doing a reasonable job and giving them success that they hadn't seen for decades. But again, as soon as they start not competing, as soon as they start this season and slipping, they too automatically have lost this term. The terms, it's jumped off their computer. It doesn't exist in their vocabulary, and it's called sports washing. That's gone. It doesn't exist. So now they all want a bit of what we've got. What's annoying them more than anything is the biggest organisation in the whole of MENA world is PIF. And so they know whatever they get the scraps off the table. And you'll have seen it. I mean, this week those people from Leicester having a pop at us, saying, it's disgraceful what you've got. You're so up your own backside. You so think you're going to be something. And we just think, no, we're not. We actually enjoy and grown. We enjoy and what it feels like to be in third in the league. That's just a great feeling. I mean, it must be better to be second, but it's a hell of a lot worse being 16. So when we're third in the league, this is like party time. This is like, fill the drinks. And everybody's chewing on with us. But the same people that's chewing on with are actually asking it for their own clubs.
Well said, Keith. 100%. I agree with you. And for me, I'm just pleased ours went through. And I'll be forever thankful for that as we look ahead now to the start of the season again, the restart of the season. Definitely. Obviously starting with the friendly tomorrow. We'll look at that a little bit later on. There was a couple of talking points. So this was the first one. Oh yeah, David Cook just wanted to say this. Excellent show once more. Great to hear Steve Hasty, Mitch and Stu share their Saudi experiences. Such events may be part of our future for fans. But although you, Steve Wraith and Keith, don't seek any prowess, we so much appreciate what you both did to contribute to getting our club back and look forward to a wonderful future. Thank you so much. That was posted on our Facebook page. Thank you very much for that, David. And this one, sorry. Stephen Kennedy, he went, NUFC Matters is up there with some of the best. But then again, when you work with the best, the results are usually great. Pleased for the Intrepid 3. Even when I take the piss, I'm still in awe of them. Their recognition is great for the NUFC Matters brand and family. Isn't it great for the channel that we can all enjoy it now with bloody big smiles on our faces? Thanks to Amanda et al. For the dream, and to Eddie and his team and all the playing staff for driving hard to make the dream come true. A work in progress? Yes. A work worth watching and waiting for? Waiting 14 years for? Hell yeah. Hardly ever miss an episode either, live or on catch-up after work. Varied content, hard facts, informative opinions, and great fun, all held together by a skillful host. Well, thank you. It's part of a lot of people's lives now. So all of you and all the subscribers and members, long live and prosper. And let's remember, as the Carpenter said, we've only just begun. Stephen, thanks for that, mate. Honestly, those kind of things coming through. I've had a bad week this week. I don't mind saying it. I think people should always talk about it when they're not having a good week. I'm spreading my mum's ashes tomorrow, and it's been very difficult. I've had a bit of a relapse this week with my mum, so it's important to talk. That doing the show gets me through many situations. But yeah, it's been a tough week this week. Christmas was always going to be hard. And me and Steve had a little chat before we came on tonight. And he says, the fact that I keep myself busy a lot probably helps. And it does help. That's why I've always kept myself busy. That's how I deal with my mental health. And yeah, it's been a tough week. I do miss my mum, still do. I'm going to say a proper goodbye to her tomorrow with my brother and our two sisters. But yeah, the support of everybody out there and the stuff that's come in, like the positive stuff that's come in like that this week, far outweighs the daft troll stuff that we often get. I've got to be honest, don't want to tempt fate, touch wood and all that, but it has calmed down a lot since the takeover. Still get the odd one, but you know, from my perspective, I've always dealt with that in my own way by ignoring it and reporting it and just moving on. But you know what? Those two messages today from David, or this week from David and Stephen, they're worth their weight in gold. And I do read every one. I read the criticism and I do read the praise. And just want to say thank you to David and to Stephen for sending those messages in, because they meant a lot, meant a lot this week. It helped me, massively. The figures as well came out. I did share them on social media, but I just want to thank the guy. I mean, I thank everybody who watches on YouTube. It's great. We have such a following on YouTube, and, we've hit 49,400 subscribers today. We're hedging towards 50,000. I know Paul Gallant's often in the chat. He's in there tonight. He's along with all the moderators, always pushing the channel and getting it out there, and it does help. I do feel that the True Crime and the News of the World show do help this channel along a little bit more than maybe I care to admit. People do enjoy it. I've managed to get back into a couple of those this week, and I don't think people mind the mix. So I'm probably going to, add, although I'll remain and call the channel NUFC Matters, we'll continue to create content for a little bit of a diverse audience. So, I'm not going to make any apologies for bringing that back, but I do want to thank those who listen on the podcast, because I don't often say thank you to those guys. And just to show you, 355 episodes in a year, 38 countries it's reached, 146% increase in streams, and 24,600 minutes people have listened to on Spotify alone. That's just Spotify. That they are kind enough, like YouTube, to provide you with yearly figures. I guess when you do the content, you're going to get the hits. But, thank you again, everyone who just listens on Spotify or other podcast providers for tuning in. And big thanks to Neil at Media Arts, who does that free. He uploads them for free. He sticks them on there. I know people, when I was doing the Sears film, had a bit of a nightmare because he didn't have any for 3 or 4 weeks. But Neil's back on the case now, so you should be getting your weekly fix. But thanks everybody out there as well for tuning in. It does mean a lot. Okay, the other talking point was this one, Steve, and I guess it nicely segues. I was going to start with this until today's news from Infantino, but Martin Ziegler, and I only picked this up on Twitter because I don't follow Martin, but I'd noticed you'd responded, Steve, as you often eloquently do, and obviously a massive blow for those clubs pushing for a European Super League. The European Court of Justice first ruling backs UEFA's right to approve new competitions. The Advocate General's opinion, which is usually followed by the court, states that the FIFA-UEFA rules under which any new competition is subject to prior approval are compatible with EU competition law. Now, again, that's something we discussed months ago on this show, Steve. You, Stu, and Mitch, who I tend to turn to for my knowledge and advice on these kind of things. You've openly discussed, what may or may not happen, but what your predictions were, and been quite right again, Steve.
Yeah, and you know what? This decision kind of vindicates everything that football fans were saying this time last year when European Super League was first mentioned, and it also vindicates and proves to us why there was such a scramble because of the financial situation with Barcelona, why Madrid were backing it, why La Liga was so anti it, because those two were so for it, because they could see the impact it would have on their own league. But then Juventus, and what happened just last month with Juventus, where the bottom fell out of their club, where everything's been sort of ripped apart in terms of their business model, the way that they've been controlling things, the manipulation of figures within the financial gambit of the way that they've been operating. And then this kind of will put the nail in the coffin, if you like. It's only a synopsis. It's not the final response, but it's leading towards what will be at the turn of the year and probably around about April time, the big announcement that ratifies, if you like, within the European Parliament and within the commission that everything that's been said and everything that's been tried cannot take place. But as I say, this is where the politics of football will start to play out. This is where we'll suddenly see pressure from those three clubs and from other leagues to say, right, now that one's been put to bed, what about the money? What about the finances? We are, and this is where the argument's going to be, we are the big clubs. We are the clubs that bring the TV revenue. It's not the competition in the early stages. It's people wanting to watch, and you can hear them now. It's people that want to watch Man United. It's people that want to watch Barcelona, want to watch Madrid. This is what they're saying. It's not necessarily the right answer, but it's what they're saying to UEFA. And then this is where you suddenly see that pot of money and that pot of gold that they're all looking at, and they want a bigger share. And it's the greed. It's the greed of football, and it's also why you've got the Americans coming in. We've discussed it many times, that the attraction of the Premier League to Americans, it's making the Premier League more and more influential. But they want to have their say in what can be coming over the horizon in terms of the money from UEFA. So European Super League gets put to bed. The worry is that something far worse is coming over the horizon for me. That's what I look at. And then, of course, as we said right at the very beginning of the show, you have Infantino with FIFA suddenly wanting to step into the club game, when, let's face it, FIFA was football associations worldwide controlling one competition, which was the World Cup. They got themselves into a few other little sort of sidelines, but now they're wanting to get deeply involved in the club game, because again, they see the money, they see the attraction, they see the rich rewards, and it's all down to money. We know it's all down to money. It's down to greed. And for me, the good thing about the Premier League is the way that the money's divided at the moment. The fact that everybody gets a flat figure. The way that the TV deals are done, everybody gets a flat fee, and then for every game that you're chosen for TV, you get that little extra. I mean, it's great for us in terms of a football club, because now all of a sudden we're playing attractive football, so our club is wanting to be seen. People are wanting to watch our football club. TV channels are wanting to put us on. Last year we might have had 18 or 19. This year we'll probably end up with 26 or 27 live games, might be even more. We'll be up there in the top 4, so it's more money coming into our football club. But it's the prize money, and it's the golden goose, the egg at the end of it that everybody's chasing, and that's the big European money. And it's going to be a mad scramble over the next couple of seasons to see how this develops and where it goes. But you know what? Like I said at the beginning, it's just all down to greed, Steve.
It is, yeah, and that's the key, isn't it? It's the key in everything we've discussed in this first half hour, Keith. Greed, yeah. Greed by big people. And Keith, you know, we predicted this on the show that would eventually go nowhere. You know, we just didn't expect Infantino to chuck in a curveball today with another suggestion.
I think the reason he chucked the curveball, as I said earlier, was because he thinks he's won this first round of threat. But when you talk about greed, there's a difference, because sometimes the greediest people in the world are the richest, and they just don't know when to stop, and they keep on asking and they keep on demanding. And you've seen people who have seemed to have everything, but they want more, and then when they get more, they don't know what to do with it. And you've seen people who are greedy in drink. You've seen people who are greedy in life, and they'll stand on anybody to get more wealth, more value, or more income. But spare a thought, because the people behind the ESL might have done it out of desperation. I think the ESL model was talked about somebody said 4 years, but reliably somebody thinks 5 years. So it's been 5 years in the making. And then when it crashed, which was just before our takeover, the time was phenomenal. It wasn't so much greed, it was maybe need. And there's a big difference, because greed doesn't seem to have a ceiling. When you're greedy, you know, you only have one arsehole, but you sometimes have 12 bellies. and you can't deposit what comes in that belly. You just keep feeding it. And that's how you end up hugely fat, because the greed just doesn't stop. When you have need, it's a completely different argument. Need is where you've maybe got yourself into something. And I think 5 years ago, when these people planned it, they would have talked about things like television rights. And they'll said, currently, at the moment, you bring in 200 million out your TV rights. If we do this, watch the numbers, it'd be very, very easy to say it's 400 million each. But what I was told reliably was that the founders of the ESL were going to be given 1 billion on the day it was sanctioned. So the founders of it, the creators, the people who invested in that business, which are just football clubs, they were going to come get $1 billion for setting it up. And then afterwards, each of the key members, that's those invited, that's in our terms, the big six or the big five, they were going to get 300 million per season more than what they currently get out of the Premier League. So if they get Champions League and do well in the Premier League, they're making 250, 350 million as it is, just on those two aspects: success in the Premier League plus doing well in the Champions League. If someone comes along and says we're going to give you 650, two things happen. First, you believe it, and secondly, you start living to it. It's like somebody says next year you get a pay rise of 30 grand. All of a sudden, your 4-star hotel in Spain becomes 5-star. Your 2-litre car becomes a 3-litre. You sometimes say, let's have another burn. And then you go out, you buy dearer drinks. You stay out longer. You stop using the bus. You start using taxis. It's a way of life. And that's what these clubs have done. So if you look at the main players, in this, you're talking about people like Spurs, 1 billion in debt. You're talking about Barcelona, 1.5 billion in debt. You're talking about Juventus, financially smashed. You're talking about Man United, financially mortgaged. You're talking about Madrid, 1 billion in debt. When you put all that together, greed's gone out the window and needs took over. There's a need to balance them books. You've bought a plan, you've been 5 years in the making, and it's collapsed. So them companies need to find $1 billion from somewhere. And this was the answer. If you look at the EFL, get whatever the big 6 EPL clubs tell them they're getting. So just get the scraps. You know what I mean? And their needs may be greater. Their needs may be like, you talk about teams like Bury, where they're facing bankruptcy, but they're just going to get what the 14 clubs in the Premier League cannot get the 6 to give them. So they just turn around and say, well, that's the rules. Us lot need $1 billion out of this. So for me, I think when Alfred Taylor's come in today, he's done what everyone would do. If your barrister phoned you up and said you're going to win this round, you'd then go gung ho and you would start thinking, well, I tell you what it is, I'm going to file for more money. I'm going to file I'm going to file a bigger scheme. And what Alfred Taylor's done, he said, well, we want more World Cups. That's what we want. Going back, I don't disagree that it's wrong, but it's expected. What will happen? Well, I think Man United and Liverpool's planned for this. They've planned for the ESL failing. They've planned for the never being of the ESL, and they've planned because you would never sell Man United or Liverpool prior to an ESL occurring. You'd wait till it happened, and that's when their shares would be at the maximum. But when it's dying, you'll then go to the market and say, right, we'll put our company for sale because this is the highest the market's ever going to be. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people, seeing the likes of Newcastle entering the market. We're seeing the likes of Man City dominating the market. And we're seeing clubs like Liverpool and Man United coming second in money. So it's all manageable. But I think be careful when you compare need with greed. But I think Spurs and certainly Barcelona, Spurs, and God, come on, Juventus desperately need monies that they will not get in a season. And if you think when Man United, their performance on the pitch, and you look at Spurs, I mean, are Spurs going to win the Champions League? Are they going to get 200+ million out the Champions League in the next 3-4 years? I think Arsenal's got more chance of getting than Spurs. So I'm a big anti-cartel, big anti-Big Six. However, where there's a need, I sort of sit back and think, yeah, they've been forced down that route because they bought the scam. They bought this whole plot, which went tits up. And I think Newcastle getting the market was a lot of cause of that. But I also think it was illegal what they're trying to do. It's uncanny that teams like Barcelona, Madrid, who are building the biggest football cartel ever, the ESL is a huge, privileged cartel. It's staggering that they went to the competition courts and said UEFA and FIFA were acting anti-competitively. How does a cartel go in and say you're acting anti? I mean, the biggest form of anti-competitive behaviour is cartel, the biggest, and the ESL is the biggest cartel that's ever walked in football. So it's great. Just on a side, I spoke to Nick DeMarco yesterday about it, and I said, what's your take on it? He messages a week ago, and then I messaged him back, and he said, what's your take on that decision? His opinion is, he's not a competition lawyer, but he feels that the decision that's been announced will be upheld. So the decision that's been rumoured will be the answer that comes out. So FIFA and UEFA will win, but he said it's steeped with both politics and economics. He said, the whole cycle is steeped in politics, which is government led, and economics, which is finance and money led. It's intriguing. So really, results happen, and he feels that I guess governments and I guess money has a lot to do with the outcome. But he feels that round one will go to UEFA, FIFA.
Interesting stuff. Good to see that you're keeping up the contact with Nick DeMarco as well. Saw some of his tweets this week. Absolutely fantastic. Some great stuff. One which does feature in our next section, which is Tweet of the Week. As I touched on at the start of the show, it's not coming home, but football is coming home to St James's Park tomorrow as Newcastle take on a friendly. But with the Tweet of the Week, it's got a World Cup theme, starting with this one. Qatar in pictures. I think we all enjoyed Ronaldo especially, didn't we? 100%. But a few people getting the comeuppance in the World Cup, which is always nice to see. TWBG said, how would I change things at half time? I'd probably start by smashing that trumpet in the crowd. I think I get exactly where you're coming from with that, mate. 100%. Stephen Kennedy said, meanwhile in Dubai, 2 cats are about to save Harry Kane's penalty as it finally lands. That was a good one. And this one, any last requests? Harry Kane to take the shot. And Harry Kane is selling his boots on eBay. These are some of the lighter hearted ones. Apparently the smoke isn't to indicate a new pope, says William. It's to advise young kids that the Kane ball passed over the estate early this morning and it was still going up. God, there is some humor out there, but there's penalty. TWBG again said, football isn't coming home. You need to accept that and move on. She's happy now. She doesn't want to hear from you anymore, Darren. England bringing forward the usual penalty heartache by 35 minutes is good for people with things to do, said Admiral J. Plum.
Yep, I think a few of us felt that.
And unpopular opinion. Personally, I think this man did a fantastic job. He doesn't deserve any of the hate he's receiving online. Granted, some decisions were questionable, but ultimately he's defied all the odds to become the first blind man ever to referee at the World Cup. Of course, that was the referee for the France-England game. Lee Foster said, sorry, but this rev is an all about me CUNT. Brazilian Mike Dean. Yes, he certainly was, mate. We didn't have a chance in hell with him reffing that game. Jamie Smith said he was sorry to see England lose, but I'm probably over it now, an hour after the match. For context, I'm still not probably over Isak's wrongly disallowed goal at Anfield in August.
Yes, I'm with you there, Jamie.
Yeah, me too. Rich Oliver, he said, I was born on the day England won the World Cup. I'm now convinced I will die on the day they win it again. I'm not holding my breath.
No, don't.
Right. And Ian Hull getting festive. He says, I hate it when Pickford decorates the tree.
That's a classic.
And this one from Gabby. Jordan Pickford always has the air of an actor playing a footballer to me. Smacks of a BAFTA rising star. A quietly devastating performance in something with Stephen Graham next. Then front cover of G2 in a fur coat with a wilted rose between his teeth. He does go a bit over the top, like. Stu Penman, I did like this one, mate. Things you just love to see. Timber being booked for falling over.
Yes.
Very good.
Very good.
Villa watch. Bruno should be ready to go now. Keith, he says to Keith Downey. He sat on the bench all tournament because he's not as good as Fred and Paqueta. Matt says, you can tell it's close to Christmas. The Virgin has arrived. Great reply, that, mate. And Mickey Wells says, and that's what happened when you don't select Sven Botman. Yeah, very true.
Yep.
Very true. This guy had a good night. It's also a lookalike, so it doubles up for a tweet of the week as well. Drunken student falls asleep in trough of fresh human urine. And he also said it's actually Jack Grealish.
Looking closely. Yeah, could be. Could be.
Good one, Daddy. Thank you, mate. But I decided to stick that in tweet of the week. Dad jokes from Dougie Morris. My son just became a priest. From now on, he wants me to call him father. Very good. And the next one is this. Released this week. Avatar, The Way of Miggy. Yes, he's hoping to carry on his superb form, and we are all hoping too. Johnny Moynes, again, a festive charts tweet here. Rage Against the Machine never specified what type of machine they were furious with, but I reckon it was probably a printer.
I know how he feels,
And well done to Shea Given supporting Davy Craig, who has been on this show a couple of times promoting his Food Bank single, his Christmas song. Give Davy a follow on Twitter, Davy_Craig, to find out all the details about his Christmas fundraiser for the Food Bank. Well done, Shea, for supporting Davy. Best of luck, Davy. You've took an idea and you've took it to the next level, and you're doing really well with it, mate. So keep it up. Fire and Skill says, my annual erection, all 10 plus inches of it. Get it up, yeah. Fantastic. And this one, Mbappe hit a guy in the face with a warm-up shot, and his apology looked like a Renaissance painting of Jesus curing a blind man. Thanks for that one, Zara. That was a late one from Zara, but that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I love that. Last couple coming up here. Roman Kemp, looks like Spurs officials sent out the wrong email this morning. Very Spursy. A world-class venue for World Cup screenings. Watch England in the semi-finals. That went out just after we got knocked out of the quarter-final, as you can imagine. Last couple, Fire and Skill again. High press, low block, modern football, F off. William Shakespeare. Yeah. And the winner this week from Doug of the Corner. Just took the wife out for a lovely meal at a posh local restaurant. Absolutely class. Staff very attentive. Afterwards, I was kindly asked, how was everything, sir? Oh, fabulous, thank you. And how did you find the pork belly? Well, I met her at a school disco back in the 70s. I do like your tweets, Doug. Never change, mate. Never change. If you've got a tweet, send it to me or any of the lads, and we will endeavour to feature them on the show. We will be back before Christmas. We're going to do a show next week, probably slightly earlier in the week because we can't do one next Friday. But we will do a little bit of a festive get-together, maybe with a few of the other chaps on the channel. But Michael West is getting a question in early about Christmas. He says, what's on your Christmas wish list, Steve?
Oh, good question. Good question. If it was a footballer for Newcastle to sign, and I was looking at purely at who performed at the World Cup, it would be Gakpo, the Dutchman. I thought he really looked the part. I thought he was quick, he was alert, he scored goals. He had a lot about him. I was very, very impressed with him. So if there was a Christmas present going that we could present to Eddie Howe, and it was a player from the World Cup, I think that's the player I would go for.
Okay, and your Christmas wish list, Keith?
I think a fringe. I would like a fringe and a curly perm. That's what I fancy for Christmas.
Fantastic. Well, you might get one. You never know.
And then all them baldy jokes that come through will all be for Steve Wraith, and none of them will be for me. And I won't have to share them anymore. But if it was a footballer, who would I go for? One player. I don't know. I think it might be Casado at Brighton, the defensive midfield player, or Diaby. I think it's. I think we need to go again, and I think that if someone had said to the owners, "You're going to be third in January, or end of December," would you invest? I think they're a man. Every one of them would have said, without a doubt. They all would have committed and said, "Yeah, of course we will." So for me, I'm ever the optimist, but I want to see us bring in 2 or 3 quality young players, like the Spanish right back, like that Argentinian kid that's only 12 million. Love to get the Brazilian, the kid that apparently is a done deal at Chelsea. I'd love to get him. But I'd like 2 players that could rattle a squad. I'd like 2 players whose names. I'm not talking about money wise, but I'm just talking about capability. Has the capability of Isaac or Dan Burn, for example. So you couldn't, they're definitely capable of rattling the 11. It'd be great if you got somebody, that was, like a Madison. You said he's going to start on Saturday and things like that. But that's I think our venture is to commit that we're third in the league and that we can finish at least third in the league this year. And I think we've got to commit young kids. I know we've brought a good young one from. We brought a few good kids, and they were on display in Saudi at the friendly. And Steve will confirm that. But we've got a good kid coming from Australia, and I'm told there's lots of good kids being scouted, and it's youth. You know what I mean? It's Trippier's 32-year-old. So I want to see this young Spanish right back come in and learn from Trippier. And over the next 2 years, learn to retire Trippier at 34. That's what I want to see. But I think we've all had our Christmas present. I think finishing third, getting to third in the for Christmas is amazing. You know what I mean? It's just a phenomenal achievement. But I don't think it's. I just think it's just a step. I think we're going to go on from there. And you don't know if the 2 slip, we might win the league. If not, we might come second. But I'd like us to bring players in January and continue this spirit, so we at least finish third.
How about a hasty wig, says Alan?
Well, if I had a hasty wig, I'd tongue it, and I'd get a curly perm on it. You know what I mean? It's like a thing in my ear. You know what I mean? You had a curly perm, you had a load of hair. I had a curly perm once, but I would like a fringe. I mean, Steve's got a cracking head of hair for a fella of his age, and I think that's where some of the envy comes from when they're sending dog pictures in, and for me, I'm not so much laughing at Steve. I'm laughing at the fact that just because there's a dog with the same colour hair as Steve, if it's white, and then somebody fannies on and parts the dog's hair and says that looks like Steve Hasty, that means you could do it with a cat or a mouse or a horse or anything. So exactly. the animals is what do me. I mean, like they just, I saw one this week. I think I sent it to you, Mr. Wraith, and I just saw that, there's a dog and someone was prattling around with that dog for hours and then give it a centre partner. And I just thought, I've got 2 Alsatians, but who messes on with the dogs like that? It must be. Honestly, I would like to say the inbox, because if you're gonna fart about with the dog's hair for hours on end, but then at the end of it, the centre partner say, well, that's Steve Hasty. To me, I'll laugh at the people who's got them dogs more than Steve Hasty. But Steve just does what he does right. He just says there's a big belly laugh, but I don't know. It's mad. But Christmas is for bands, isn't it? It's for kids, but as big kids, I think we've had our Christmas box. I think if someone had said to you in September, Newcastle's gonna be third in the league at Christmas, you'd have wet your pants. And for me, it's spine tingling. It's you know, if I had any hair at all, I suppose it would be stood up on the back of my neck. But it's just, you know, it's like if you lot were running down the last bend of a Olympics games in the 400 meters, and you were 10, 20 yards ahead of the rest of the field. You had 60 yards to go. You'd run your bollocks off. You'd think, how to get here? You just made most of it. You'd try and win. But 2 seconds, I just think, can you answer that? He's got my Christmas cards, Pep. He's got my Christmas cards. He's downstairs. Sorry, there's my Christmas cards. I'm at the hotel in Newcastle because I'm at a do tonight, and my mate's just phoned up because he's got my Christmas cards to send out. So for me, I just think myself, you know, we need to remember how we got here, but more than that, we need to maximise staying here, and we need to see what happens. These people have got money to burn, but they're wise people. They didn't get it for nothing. They got it by being clever. But clever people, when you get ahead of the field and you've got 60 metres to run, they give you the best trainers, they give you the best training, and they say, come on, can we win it? Could we win the league this year? If not, could we come second? Or let's not hang on. Why don't we hang on to third? But they'll not be thinking of fifth and sixth and seventh. And I'm just curious to see what happens. I can't imagine January's going to come without some great signings. So my Christmas present, I think I got Steve, and future presents, I think, will be given by the owners.
Yeah, great to think of those future presents. I don't think we'll have too long to wait. Okay, next up, the day I met. The day I met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, and thanks to Donald, who's been on the show many times and is a regular in the chat, meeting Gaza. Great photo, Donald. Thank you for that. And I did get a selection of photos from Al Walid on the Newcastle excursion to Saudi Arabia. So in no particular order, here he is with Matty Target, Mr. Murphy. Good stuff, mate. These are great. He's gone with the goalkeepers. And Fraser. Ryan Fraser. And Miggy. Big Joe and Miggy. That's the piece de resistance, that one, isn't it?
Definitely.
Great stuff, Al Walid. Thank you for sending them in. And I'm glad you had such a great time singing the lads. If you've got a photograph of you and one of the players or somebody who has played for the club, ping them over to us and we'll feature them on a Day I Met. Tom Dixon said reports today say that Newcastle could be offered James Madison by his agent in January. And Mark Ritchie says, I hope we sign Madison, but do you think the club have cooled their interest given his injury record? We seem to have a few injury-prone players already. Steve, the merry-go-round is about to start, but let's get Christmas out the way first. But you know, let's talk about this because we've featured Madison for many a episode of the Three Amigos. You know, what's your thoughts? Do you think this is going to happen?
No, I don't actually. I don't think it is going to happen. Madison's an interesting one, isn't he? I mean, went to went to the World Cup. He was going to be everybody was scrambling around. Got an injury. It was obviously the guy wasn't fit. He was taken purely as a spectator. It never ever looked. I didn't think we ever saw him warming up. Never mind even the inkling that he would have an opportunity to come on, which always annoys me when England, go to a tournament. There's always someone who's injured, and we saw it with Beckham. We've saw it with Rooney, over the years. We saw it with Keegan and Brooken when they went in '82. It's just one of those things that the managers scramble around and they'll take an injured player, and basically it's one player down in your squad. As for Madison himself, I think is Madison the superstar that we're looking for? Is he the sort of player that would fit in? Yeah, he probably would fit in. But is it what we need? Do we play the sort of game? Is Madison the sort of player who would slow it down slightly for us? Would he speed it up for us? Would we be still playing at the same pace that Eddie Howe has the team playing in? I'm not too sure. Great free kick taker, there's no question about that. The lad is super talented. I wouldn't be disappointed if we got him. In fact, I'd be chuffed to bits. But I just don't think that it's the player that they're looking at. I just have this feeling that they're looking elsewhere. I've got nothing to lay my hat on. It's not like when we were over there and we were talking to and listening that we heard anything that suggested that. Quite the opposite. We heard nothing. Never asked a question. It was never raised by supporters who were going to buy in the transfer market or anything like that. Because the way that the club operates now is that everything's locked down. They have their own ways of operating. It's not like in the old days where reporters knew everything that was happening at the football club on the back of a phone call. I think sometimes the reporters who report on Newcastle United sometimes know less than the fans, and sometimes they're picking up information from the fans. They're picking up information from various sources, but I don't think the sources are necessarily from within the football club. I don't think football club people have the same sort of relationship with the press that they used to have. I think they have a professional relationship. I think it's very much based on the press conference and that's it. The meeting that they have where they're allowed to ask questions with the manager prior to a game, and then the post-match conferences, and after that it's scrambling around. But I'm sure that the whole Madison thing's just gonna continue to bubble under until somebody turns around at Leicester and says he's going nowhere. Or until Madison turns around and goes, well, actually, I am still injured, come back in the summer. Because you can see that if this injury was dodgy enough for not to be even considered for running along the dirt track in any of the Qatari stadiums that England played in, then it tells you something, doesn't it? He spent most of his time on the treatment table or hanging around the swimming pool. So let's see. But no, I just don't see Madison as being a player that would come for Newcastle.
A lot of people saying they prefer Tielemans to Madison. Keith, what's your option?
There's 4 reasons I don't think if he comes, great. I think he does a job. I think if I said on a show a week ago, I said that if you were to buy Madison tomorrow, I think he'd only be 10 million. I think Leicester will get 10 million more from him in January than what they get him when they run the contract down further in the summer. I think it's a £10 million difference. So I think it'd be 60 million now to force his hand and make him come. I think he's 50 million in the summer. I think a great player like that, even with the contract running down. There's so many people want him. Spurs would take him. I think Liverpool, Man United, Newcastle would all be in for him. So I don't think there's any pressure on Leicester. But what is the pressure on Leicester is to steal. So why would Leicester take a £10 million surplus on selling them now and risk going down? It just doesn't make commercial sense. So no, I don't see him coming for that reason. I'd love to be proved wrong. and Steve Hasey's just touching it. No fans know anything. I don't care who they are. Nobody knows anything. The club is such a tight-knit ship now that basically you're talking about people, people lose their jobs if they let the main target out. And then the same way that we signed Gamerish, when Bruno came in, nobody knew he was coming and he just arrived. And that's how Newcastle do their major signings now. So for me, common sense says, so okay, why would they pass up on Madison? Because I think if you think of how they'll be thinking, I think there's 4 things you can think of. There's healthy rumours from decent people who've been reliable in the past, saying that Diaby's back in the reckoning. I reckon he's available again. If Diaby's up and about, I mean, he could be got for 50 million last time. Maybe he could be got for 40 million now. Who knows? He didn't make the French squad. But if Madison's 60 and Diaby's 40, I think you'll find that Diaby was the biggest target they ever had. Diaby was the one player they want who they couldn't get. He's the player they wanted to break the bank for. Secondly, someone a lot more or a similar position, but when you talk about value, look at the age of young Thuram, Lilian Thuram's son, who plays for France, or Thuram, or whatever you want to call him. He's plays a similar position. He can play wide. He can play off the centre forward. But he's a strike. He's got a great goal scoring record and a great assist record this year. And his age, his age is better than Madison's. And rumour has it he can be got for 12 to 15 million because his contract is run down. So he wants to go. That's what Madison isn't saying I want to go, but Thuram's saying I want to go. He wants to go to the Premier League, and his father, who we all saw as a cracking player in France in the past, is saying where he should go. And the rumour has it that Newcastle are quite near the front of the queue for him. So that's a similar kind of player. And there's 2 people we've already got that we're forgetting about. You've got Maxi coming back, who's not on his side. Where's Maxi going in that team? Because when Maxi plays well, he's unplayable. He's the best player we've got. Secondly, Isak's to come in. So you've got these players, and they're not what I'd call centre forwards. They're people that play off the wings or inside forward or behind the forwards, and they're very similar to Madison. So when you put in Thuram at 12 to 15 million, Diaby's, who apparently is gettable now, Isak and Maxim, I just think myself that money's going to be key here. FFP is going to be important, and I don't think Newcastle's going to be held to ransom by Leicester.
It's interesting what you say there, Keith, because you look at some of the performances in the World Cup, and some of the majority of the players that I think most of us have spotted and been impressed with are not your out-and-out striker. They're very similar to what you've just described. A player who plays wide on the left, like an Mbappe, somebody like Dembele, who I must admit I didn't rate. I thought that his career was stalled at Barcelona, and then he was going nowhere. There was a lot of talk about him being thrown out of Barcelona. He wouldn't get on. He wasn't getting on. He had an issue with he couldn't get out of bed in the morning because he spent most of his evenings playing FIFA, all that type of thing. And then all of a sudden you see him in the World Cup and you see what a class player he is. And I think Memphis Depay was another one. Not your out-and-out striker, but a player who comes in from the side, uses his pace, uses his strength. So the whole game's changed, hasn't it? We've gone Harry Kane now no longer a centre forward. He likes to drop into midfield and players play off him. Son, another one. You would never class him as an out-and-out striker as such. Likes to play off people, likes to do his own running, likes to come in. So the whole game's changing. It's a much faster moving pace. I think that's where Newcastle have got the advantage because we're playing a high press, and I hate that phrase because it's something that seems to another one of those that came up on the list early. It's basically attacking from the front, defending from the front, and pushing on, putting the opposition under pressure, and all working as a team. And what Eddie Howe's got is a bunch of people working for a team. Where it's going to be difficult for him is when if he goes to bring somebody in and that player's not necessarily a team player, and that's where it's difficult for a manager and difficult for the scouts because they've got to pick a player who's going to suit the style of player that we're bringing, and we've got similar players already, the likes of Maxi, who will run and run and attack, and you've got Isak, who again similar. We haven't seen enough of Isak, have we? But what we have seen, he looks very, very impressive in a black and white shirt. That game against Liverpool, where let's face it, there was definitely scored 2 goals. And we got the goal chalked off for offside, which for my mind was never an offside decision. But this is where the lockdown comes in. This is where we're not going to find out who we're genuinely are looking at. There's so many players that we could, because of who we are now. All of those players that I've mentioned, Newcastle United could go and get at a stroke tomorrow if they wanted them. But it's a case of whether Eddie Howe wants them.
But what you've got to mention is you've got to look at Isak and say they paid more money for Isak than they could have got Madison for. So in the model that Newcastle follow, see what I do is I look and say who's in charge. They're the owners. Who have they put to find players? You look at the likes, like Dashworth and people like that, and these are the people at the top of their game. The people we're using. Like we've just gone and signed a massively demanded youth team scout, you know what I mean? And you look at them, so they all know who they're going for. And they went, and the minute they found out they could get Isak, they just stopped looking at the young lad Pedro at Watford, and they just dived in and signed him up. And we haven't seen half of Isak's capability yet. We saw a snippet at Liverpool, but that kid's going to be special. And by all accounts, the people at the club think he's special. They think he's brilliant. And they were prepared to pay more money for him than what they could have got Madison for. So you've got to put it all in perspective. Yes, I think Madison's a cracking player. Yes, he's got some skills that some of these players we mentioned haven't got. But you've got Isak waiting to come in. And ultimately, let's suppose Maxi comes back with the form that he played against Man City when he gave Kyle Walker another arsehole. How are you going to pay him and then play Isak in that team? Because you've got one at 63 million, and you've got one who's been our sole creator for the last 2 years. You know what I mean? He's been and if he, what I noticed about Maxi is when he played in the friendlies and the last couple of times he has played, he's not getting caught in possession as much. He's being coached better, and when he gets the ball now, he's looking, and that's what I was impressed with Thuram when I saw him play for France. Every time he didn't have something on, he made sure he never lost the ball. He just retained the ball very well. So he made sure the ball didn't ping back to the French midfield. He made sure that he kept it with players. He played people in. When you're talking about Madison and you're talking about being held over a barrel by Leicester, you get into this thing about Newcastle playing a surcharge on players, and that's gone. That's completely gone. I think we've got through that by buying less fashionable, less well-known players who've turned out to perform, massively well. But I think next you'll see people who want to come to Newcastle, who'll put transfer requests in, and who'll be tapped up and say, "I only want to go to Newcastle." And that's when you won't be held over a barrel because these players are wanting to come here. I think with the players we talked about, and there's others, there's other Brazilians. I think the point you hit on, Steve, is brilliant. We are starting to buy players like Man City did when they won the league, before they hit on the best centre forward in the world. They've bought a centre forward that probably is better than anybody. So when you look at, he was talked about. People knew he was good, but when you see him, he's literally unplayable. And Liverpool did the same. They went out and bought Nunes, and by all accounts, great player, but doesn't seem quite as good as Haaland. Doesn't seem quite as good. I listen to a bloke every game who talks a lot of sense, Johnny, Mr. Johnny Q-Tech, and I said if I could buy one player, I'd go and buy Harry Kane. And he says, we got him, we'd have a chance to win the league. He's probably right. But the thing is, if you watched Kane in the World Cup, people were getting frustrated about him because at times when we needed him at centre forward, he was playing as a left half, and he was playing deep left midfield. and go and that's what he does in Spurs' side. But he's got Son sat waiting for him. And if you saw him go up, he created a ball, he whipped it across, or somebody whipped it across, and there was nobody there because Kane, as we know, had started the move off. That's when I watched Tottenham away, I noticed how deep Kane dipped. And to me, if you've got a world-class centre forward, you should be in that 18-yard box for most of the game, because that's where all the goals are going to be, and that's where it all happens. So you're right, Steve, what you're saying about these players are not out-and-out centre forwards, but how many world-class centre forwards is there? You know what I mean? Mbappe isn't a world-class centre forward in the same breath as Haaland. Different kind of player, probably every bit as good, but a different player. And Man City won a title and won it. You know, Man City became the best club in the world by not having a Haaland. So I think Newcastle might go down a similar route, and then might find a world-class centre forward like Man City did. But think of what Jesus did for Arsenal this season. Think of how much disappointment there was when he came back from the World Cup injured. He wasn't good enough for Man City, or he didn't fit in, or he wasn't the out-and-out centre forward that they wanted. So, and you know, it looks like a class act to me. But I think it's the same point you argue, PSD, is that it's the centre forwards, and there's inside forwards, and there's wide men, and it looks like we're building up a team.
Yeah.
Without and there's still centre forwards out there. I think Osimhen, you know, I mentioned last year. I think he's still, you know, a proper handful of a centre forward. But you know, will the race question was, will we bang, you know, 60 million of our well scrutinised FFP fund into Madison? And I think Diaby will be cheaper, Thuram will be a quarter of the price, and will you not then force or lose or antagonise Maxi and Lisa? Don't see it happening.
Great stuff, as always. Just over halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors. First off, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Garden of Eden Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them at thegohd.com. And thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces. They are handmade in Cumbria, and you can find more information out on their website, mrvickies.co.uk. And if you want to order any, email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to Blowhole Brewery, a new beer made on Tyneside. The cans are all designed in the colours of Newcastle United strips from days gone by. Black and white there, the purple and blue, and the good old-fashioned blue from the Entertainers' days. But get more information on the Blowhole Brewery range, such as Geordie Juice, from blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things and video side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who do our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the show, then all you need to do is click the subscribe button below. You can also hit the thumb up, which does us a favor by liking the video, and click share to your social media, such as Twitter and Facebook. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and the rest. And if you want to contribute to the show, use the QR code. It takes you straight to the membership pack, and you can join the channel. What do you get for your membership pack? You get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. You can also make a donation by hitting the $sign in the chat tonight. We also give you something for free if you subscribe to the show. To get your car sticker, email john@nufcmatters.com and he will post you one out. We also support the food bank on this show. And if you want to make a virtual donation to the food bank, then go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. On our website, we've got lots of t-shirts, cups, pens, you name it, memorabilia, if you want to buy it and support the show. For Christmas, we have the Bruno Christmas jumper, which is selling rather well. And we'll have the bobble hats, Play Like Almiron, Bruno's Magic, and Bruno's 39 and Joe Linton's J7. Get yourself to nufcmatters.com to buy them today. If you want to buy people a ticket for one of our events next year, we've got an evening with Steve Howie, which is Friday the 24th of February at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £50 from nufcmatters.com or newcastlelegends.com. And you can also buy them on voucher before Christmas. Get somebody a bargain and a nice Christmas present. Peter Beardsley is on the 10th of February at St. Dom's Catholic Club in Newcastle. Tickets available direct from the venue. And for this one, Friday the 2nd of June next year at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth, 6:30 start. An evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford. To book tickets, contact Natalie at heelandtour.org.uk or visit their website, heelandtour.org.uk/events. If you're looking for a Christmas present and people like a book, then get yourself NME from the Bender Squad to the Gremlins, or the last remaining copies of Black or White, No Grey Areas, Lee Clark's autobiography, and you can get them from www.badboysbooks.net. Okay, Keith, get the defibrillator ready. The lookalikes start with this one from Peter Guys. There's a familiar face at the petting zoo, made me look twice. At least it's not a dog. Bizarre ones this week. And then we have this. Hi, Steve. Hope you're well. I haven't got Twitter, so here's a Steve Hasty lookalike from just 5 minutes ago. I mean, it's him. Doing the World Cup, Steve, now, moonlighting. This one was from Iceman on Twitter. He says, Steve Hasty doing some moonlighting in his pants on stage. Christmas decorations, Hasty style.
Yeah.
From Dougie Morris. Sutty sent us this one. Lookalike Keith Chegwin and Steve Hasty.
Hey, Steve, you do look like Keith Chegwin, mine.
No, I don't.
You do like.
No, I don't. No.
You do.
And this one, now and older.
That's cruel.
You've got a Steve Wraith, Keith Patterson haircut.
Aye.
This one is from Keith Patterson.
That's fun. Oh.
And this one's from Steve Hasty. Steve's actually, if you can't, if you can't beat him,
wasn't a lookalike. That wasn't sent in as a lookalike. That was a
remind me of Mitch.
Henman said it'll probably end up as a lookalike, and we know what's coming next.
Right. Okay. Well, there is this one. From Albert. Hasty and Mitch. So glad
Jack.
And this one from Rob Boyd. Who's this?
Hey.
It's Steve Hasty.
Queen.
We got a mixed bag of which Steve's part of from Jimmy. The NUFC Masters Blues
I always
Band.
thought Jimmy was a mate.
Look at the one at the top right.
Look at the one at the bottom right.
I Stu Penman said he's got Mitch spot on.
Who does
They're
this
just
with
pictures of dogs. Jimmy, man. They're just pictures of dogs.
Got me as the singer.
Good
Oh,
old
God.
They do look like you, like Steve. They do look a bit like you, mate, honestly.
Keith Richardson, he says, look like in the early days, a young Hasty on the pull down the big market. Thanks, Keith. Keith's a new person. Now, as you know, Rita Oxley tends to apologise, Steve, after she's sent hers. You know, she always goes
so good, does it?
He's right.
So she sent this in this week. Christmas present for Steve Hasty.
Jesus Christ.
That's like one of those. That's like one of those security things that comes up with the bank, isn't it? You know, which one's got the picture of the duck in? You know.
Keith, look at the one in the bottom left.
That's unbelievable.
The bottom left's perfect.
But
It's not unbelievable, man.
Is that fifth one a woman? Is that a woman?
That dogs, mate. That dogs.
Is that fifth one down?
That's a monkey.
Down the middle, is that a woman?
There's a duck there, Keith. There's a dog, a monkey. There's a llama, a goat. They're not dogs.
Yeah, I tell you what, the old ringers are you, mate.
Not as these though. From Jack.
I
And
mean,
this one.
whose dog's that? Oh,
There's
my
John.
Lord.
There's Steve again.
God almighty.
We had this one from Steve. From Jack again. Jack went full Monty this week. He just hammered this.
Jack's in hundreds.
He did. I
Oh, yeah, isn't he? Dear
hasty
me.
on a windy day.
That's got the same barb as me and Steve Wraith. It's got all the pictures.
That's from
That's at the
Avatar.
food bank. That's at the food bank. Steve, that's his Christmas jumper.
God.
Ready for bed.
Oh,
Is this him after a night out?
oh my
God,
God.
it's not me
It's
after a night out, man.
You wouldn't take a dog in the park, would you?
And he finished off with a llama. The last two, anyway, the ones which look most like Steve is this one from Dougie. And this one.
That's Doctor Who, man. That's Doctor Who.
Wow. Thanks. Honestly, people went to town this week, but thanks for all of that. Now we're into the real lookalikes.
Nothing else to do, have they?
Lookalike here. We're very own Mitch and Big Vern from Viz.
Sort of, but absolutely.
Thanks for this one. Lookalike for Friday. A random Dutch guy on a Dutch advert is a spitting double of Steve Wraith. Thank you. This one.
That's good.
Jalen Hurts,
Oh, that
Eagles
is.
quarterback, and
None of it,
Callum
Tim.
Wilson.
Well done, Tim.
It's getting sensible now.
Sam Chipperfield says your filter's back on Snapchat to me. Thanks, Sam. It's nice to see that you constantly use it as well. Ever wondered how Steve Wraith got his nickname Bird Brain? Says Stephen Kennedy. Can you just see the bird on the top of his head?
God, dear.
And this one. Keith doesn't like tabs.
Well, I couldn't believe it because he had a smoke and a fag, and I'm like very anti-smoking. I used to be a hypnotist, you know, stop people smoking, and I said that, and I had a fag in my hand.
Yeah,
So
that was well done by him. Jose Mourinho and Timo.
Mad, absolutely mad. I bet Jose
Dog.
doesn't get upset being compared to a dog.
Dougie Morris sent this in. Says it's the Geordie dentist. Our very own Mitch. And Giroud and Ryland Clark from Tom.
Yes.
That's
Now
good, isn't it? That's
you're
class.
getting the hang of it now.
That's I get what it's about now.
Yeah.
Kieran Clark and Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Same eyebrows.
Yeah.
And
Forehead.
Olivia Giroud and Woody Woodpecker.
Oh, well.
Slightly off kilter with that one, but yeah, we'll give you it. Roy Carroll and Jamie Lannister.
Yes.
Quite
I
good,
see that.
quite
Yeah.
good.
Coming down to the top 4 or 5 now. Take your dad to work day.
Some dogs.
No, we've run out of dogs. Jerry send this one in. Louis Van Gaal and Butthead.
That's good, that like.
That's clever. That's.
Here's me top 3. Corrie actor Andy Wymant and Jordan Cronin.
Oh, poor Jordan.
That's good, that like.
Very good, but it was 3rd place. I love this one because of the attention to detail that the person gave. That time when Colin Montgomery picked a fight with John Rambo, missed his punch and whacked Paul Hogan instead, while Rodney Trotter watched it all unfold from a safe distance. Great
That is great. That is brilliant.
Brilliant.
Billy Moore, I love that, mate.
Fantastic.
Billy's got a great podcast. Give him a follow.
Yeah.
And the winner for me this week was this one. Tim Curry as Frankenfurter and actress Fairuza Balk. Very good, yeah. I can see that.
Nice.
That was me winner this week. But great stuff. Keep the lookalikes coming in, especially the dogs. We all like a laugh every now and then. We did have a couple of other points getting brought up. Tom, a quick prediction. Who do you think will win on Sunday between Argentina and France? My prediction is Argentina to win by 2-1. Steve, what's your prediction?
I think Argentina as well. I don't know how many goals, but I think it's written in the stars for Messi. End of his career coming up, the twilight, everything that's happened on the other side of the GOAT argument with Ronaldo over the last 6 months. and Messi, who's just quietly gone about his business, dragged what is a workmanlike but not necessarily one of the better Argentinian teams. But everything revolves around him. He's galvanized a bunch of players, and has a manager who has got them very, very well organized. And I think it's written in the stars for Messi.
What about you then, Keith? What's your prediction?
Draw on 90 minutes, then flick a coin because any of them could win it. But I think it'll be a draw 90 minutes. And I think it'll be good odds. You get a good bet on that. I think there'll be goals scored. So I think it'll be a score draw, but 90 minutes.
Gary Douglas says, I remember a certain person who's no longer on your show anymore, Steve, that claimed there was not a lot of money left in the kitty live on the show. Then Newcastle pulled 60 million for Isaac. Not sure who that is, to be honest.
Neither am I.
I'm not sure who that is. You'd have to remind us. The only person I can think of is, well, there's only two people. It could be Liam or Ian. And now Liam is still on the show, so it might not be Liam. Because Liam has just had some massive time out, but he was back a couple of weeks ago. But it could be him, yeah. Lots of people suggesting various people in the transfer window. We will be bringing the transfer window show back with Ben Jacobs, so do not worry about that. It'll be back as soon as Christmas and New Year are over. Mozza, yes, I did watch the interview with the lads at the RVI, and Maxi interviewed at the end. You don't know what's coming. I hope he's right. Yeah, and we all hope he's right as well. John says, question for Keith. When you spend all those hours and late nights working on the takeover, did you ever dream would be in the top 3 at Christmas and everything else that has gone so amazingly off the pitch? Keith?
No, I never. I always knew the takeover would go through, but I thought it would take longer to get rid of people and change the team over. And what I didn't ever cater in my mind for, John, was the ability Eddie Howe would have for getting top players out of the 5 or 6 that's formed part of the backbone of this team. And you know, you're talking about your Joe Lintons. I never dreamt that Eddie Howe would make him a first name on the sheet. I never thought that Mickey would ever. You could see that these lads were good players, but now they're special. You know what I mean? We've talked there. If you know, yeah, who's to say if Madison is 60 million and people talk about Maxi 50 million? Surely Almiron's got to be that kind of area. Almiron must be £50 million player, and you know, if they keep on coaching Almiron, he's definitely got the hunger, he's got the pace, and the finishing ability. He could be like one of the Premier League's best players. So I don't think, John, I ever thought that you know, that he would spin Shah around to what he is, that he would get what he's got out of the squad. I didn't think that we would change the keeper as quick as we did and get somebody that you just look at and think, God, you know, he's just as solid as a rock. Nick Pope just seems to be part of Newcastle now. You know what I mean? I didn't think that was going to happen. And I was one of the people, when the season started, I said, we've got to start with the original keeper, you know, for the first game. I think a lot of us did.
Yeah.
So I know I didn't, but you know, it's over, done and dusted. And like, I hope I never ever get involved in anything like that again. But it's certainly worth the days that me and you have, John, where we sit at them games and we just laugh at each other, look at you and burst out laughing and just think, how mad is all this? To be third at Christmas is a dream, and not being a clever ass, but I said we'd be 5th this year, and I you know, I thought maybe we'd be 7th at Christmas to get 5th this year, and that's why I think we'll be 3rd now. I don't think it's over. I think you're talking about the wealthiest people on the planet being told the 3rd, you've got 6 good months to go and finish the job. I wouldn't like to bet against them. I wouldn't like to be the team in 2nd saying you're not getting my spot. And I just don't see Newcastle going to 5th, 6th, and 7th. I think we'll finish top 4th. So I didn't imagine it would all go so well. But by God, I tell you what, it's like you said earlier, Christmas presents. You don't come much better than this when you're our age.
No, definitely don't.
I tell you what, though, Keith, I was just going to say, Steve, it's interesting what you say there, Keith, because you weren't the only one who thought that we wouldn't be where we are. I think a lot of the first team squad were exactly the same. And when they went to Saudi this time last year, I did hear it said that when they were doing the team bonding and they were meeting with the likes of Mr. Al Ramayan, that quite a few of the squad did actually turn around and say they didn't think they would be there this time now. They saw their days numbered at the football club because they thought that there was going to be a massive sea change. They thought that they would be shipped out. And the question was immediately placed back at them. Why? What makes you think that? Well, it's just the way that the football club's going. No, we want you to be part of this. We want you to be. We're going on a journey. We want you to be part of it. We want this to be a team effort, etc., etc. And I think the penny dropped with some of those players as well, because if you remember, and everybody can remember, we were really in the trough of a slump at that particular time. And from that moment onwards, when that team came back from Saudi, it was a totally different attitude, mentality-wise, fitness-wise, confidence-wise, and we just took off. And I think there's an awful lot to be said for team bonding. I think that the talent was always within the squad, but they didn't believe in themselves. And what Eddie Howe, when they've been away and when they've been speaking to the likes of Al Ramayan and when they've mixed in that and listened to what the club's plans are, they suddenly went, I didn't think I was going to be part of it, but I want to be part of it. And there's an opportunity to be part of it. And that changed the whole emphasis on our season. And now this season, it's just simply continued. The performance has been put in, and in close season, it was said that Eddie Howe wanted them to be 30% fitter. He wanted them to be faster. He wanted them to be stronger. And he wanted them to stand up as men and be counted. And that's what they've done. They've taken on board, because they're professionals. They've taken that on board. And that's the difference. That's what we've got now. We've got a team that is working together. We've seen them squaring up collectively when there's been issues with one or two of them during a game. Everything's bonded well, and I think that in itself is testament to the players as much as to Eddie Howe. But Eddie Howe's the catalyst. He's the man who's driving it forward now, and they're all following him. And that's the difference now from where we are, because that team was not being led prior to Eddie Howe coming in. Eddie Howe, in that first 3 months, until he got the opportunity to take them away and spend time with them, and then for them to hear that they had the backing of the owner, the man at the very top, Mr. Al Ramayan, that's when it all changed for me.
I think you're bang on. And when Dan Ashworth was away, he said that he referenced Lee Clark's son leaving the club, and he said that he saw that as he didn't want to go into great depth, but what he said is we need to make sure that we are the best we can be, and we're the best at handling people and selling people the dream. But what he referenced was a kind of Elliot Anderson kind of route. You've got to be able to demonstrate how Sean Longstaff came through and what he's achieved, and how we looked at a lot of people. I was always a Maxim fan. I was always a Sean Longstaff fan, and got criticism for it. But it's getting quieter and quieter, especially on Sean Longstaff. And I think we asked somebody like Bruno the value of Sean Longstaff. You've asked Eddie Howe of it. I think you'd find he's a very unselfish, always do or die performer, and he's one of them unsung heroes in that team. But when you put people like you've just referred there, Steve, into a team, we saw how good Murphy was under Steve Bruce. We saw how good Almiron was, and we saw how good Sean Longstaff was. I mean, when Sean Longstaff used to go to work, Steve Bruce used to ignore him. So if he said, "Oh, boss," he just turned on him and he ignored him and Matty, because they wouldn't do what he wanted in terms of signing contracts. Everybody wanted Sean at the time, and Longstaff must have looked at Bruce and thought, why do I want to spend the vital part of my career with you? If you look at West Brom's unbeaten the last 4 games because Bruce is gone. So he joins them in the top 6. He takes them to the bottom 3. He leaves, and they've won the last 4. I mean, how are you? That's like seeing a Stephen Keith bald. Come on, you've got to be able to see it and think the common denominator is that man hasn't got a clue and he's outdated. But he's had them players. So he's had the Almirons and the Sean Longstaffs and the Joe Lintons and got nothing out of them. And what happens is when you give them someone like Howe, them players were quite canny in our old setup. So when he puts great players around them, like Botman, who buys you time, and he puts players like Trippier, who picks you out of the sixpence, and he puts people like Isaac running off the ball. And I mean, look how Wilson's developed. You know, Wilson got to World Club and just didn't look out the players, looked as though he should be there. And I think we all feel he should have played more. But what all Eddie Howe did was he worked with what Steve Bruce had, but couldn't work with. And he made them what they can be. And that's why 6 of them now look like world beaters. I think them 6 are going to get better. I think Sean Longstaff and I think Miggy will both improve. I think they'll become even better players. You know, and I think they'll become players worth tens of millions, like Longstaff was reputed to be under Rafa. But this club, think about it. He's working all that magic. Dan Ashworth's working magic, bringing people in, and you can see what's going to happen next. The checkbook's going to be opened. They're going to enter it in January, and this third is a stepping stone to the top. You know, and if we don't finish third, if we finish lower than third, so be it. But it's just a case of time, you know. And I'm not surprised now. Logic it brightens you up, doesn't it? It says, are you surprised that when Bruce left and Howe took over, and he put some cracking world-class players next to them, they became better? Well, no, I'm not surprised now. But I don't think any of us expected or saw it coming.
Big up to Danny Coggins in the chat. Good to see you on, mate. Good friend of the lads. Good to see you on, mate. Okay, got a couple of other things to get through before the end of the show. It's time for Elliot. I asked the doctor if I could administer my own anesthetic. He said, go ahead, knock yourself out. Cheers, Elliot. Thank you, mate. Have a good Christmas.
I'll be Tory party policy soon.
You're not wrong. The food bank T-shirt was won by the person who adorns the front of it. If you just need a reminder, our newest England fan was Stu Penman, went from Scotland to England. We Are England T-shirt sold for £200 for the food bank, and Stu has donated the £200 directly to the food bank. So thank you very much for that, brilliant. Stu.
Brilliant.
Much appreciated. John from QTech has started off his latest quiz, and you just need to write the clues down over the next 4 weeks. November the 12th, 1966 is your first clue. There'll be another 3, and then a question on the last one for you to answer. And the first person who answers in the chat will win a prize, and we won't be far away from the monthly draw, which I think is next week. If John in the chat can correct us, then please do. But yeah, that will be it. And there will be another food bank T-shirt going up. We've got a signed Supermac T-shirt available now, which will go up on my Twitter. So if you go to @SteveWraith, probably tomorrow morning now, I will stick up the T-shirt there, and you'll be able to place a bid. It'll be signed by Malcolm and be posted out probably between Christmas and New Year to the lucky winner. Don't forget as well, I know I mentioned it on the ads, but if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It does help us, and it's free. We give you 7 shows a week, 7 nights a week, and it's all for free. We don't put anything behind any hidden charges, etc. If people donate, it's nice of you to do that, great. But essentially, if you can subscribe, if you look at the little NUFC Matters button down there in the bottom right-hand corner, and just click on that, it gives you the option to subscribe. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop, you can do it on your iPad, whatever you're watching it on, or on your computer, and just subscribe. When I do go through the analytics on the channel, it does tell us that over 50% haven't subscribed. And if you do subscribe, what's the benefit? Well, you get a notification And that's something that tells you when the shows are coming on. And I know a lot of you like to watch the show live so you can interact in the chat. So please hit the subscription button. If it's a New Year's resolution, just do it. Just do it now. Don't wait till New Year. Just do that, and it will be good. It helps us out massively. Okay. Thanks very much to everybody who has already subscribed. As I say, would love to get to 50,000. Be nice to get there before the end of the year. Don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. Never say never. Doug Hall asked a question earlier. He said, would you like to have Trippier stay on at the club in some other capacity after he retires? Because he's a real professional. Well, Doug, simple answer from me is yes. And I'm presuming it'll be the same answer from Steve and from Keith.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any player who, when he comes to the end of his career, has something extra to add to the football club can only be of benefit. We've seen it at West Ham, where they've just installed ex-players. And I think that it's only on the positive side. I think it's something Newcastle haven't done in the past. We've let ex-players go, and we know that they have an awful lot of experience and knowledge, whether it's working with youngsters, whether it's in a presidential capacity, whatever. But yeah, absolutely. It all depends on whether that's the sort of direction Kieran would want to go in when his career ends. But I don't think that Kieran's looking at towards the end of his career just yet. I think he's thinking he's got another few years in front of him before he starts having to go down that channel.
Yep, Trippier to stay on at the club after he finishes playing, Keith.
1,000,000%. And what he did on crutches when he had his injury and came in the dressing room and followed the team, to me, that was just, he's got Geordie blood in him somewhere. It is significant that he's so committed to the task. He was the first one that came to this venture and bought into it without any clauses, just came in. And to me, the likes of him is the kind of people that want to be behind the scenes, selling this to the new people that we're going to try and attract.
Yeah, okay. Lots of people like talking about your night out. Enjoy your night out, Keith. I hope Karen is going to video your dancing.
I'm going to see Luther Vandross.
All right, very good. Well, enjoy that, mate. Enjoy that.
It's not the real Luther. Luther's dead, but it's standing. And I've seen him twice, and he's a bus driver from London, and met him, and he's outstanding. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference on stage. He's an exceptional bloke. So I've come to Newcastle to watch him tonight.
Great stuff. Chris McCarthy, welcome back. Just read your message there. It's never good to hear when people are struggling with mental health. I've just done a little bit about it earlier on today, mate, actually, at the start of the show, which you probably won't have seen. But yeah, look, hope you're well, mate, and good to have you back in the chat. And it's good to watch the shows again. Does anyone think we need another striker in case Wilson gets injured? I think we all do. And again, we're talking about the transfers, the potential ins and outs. I think Maxi as well has got people, licking their lips in anticipation when he says you don't know what, wait and see what's coming. I can imagine Newcastle will bring in players in both windows. So it's exciting. It really, really is. And Gary says first drink of the weekend, many more to come. Everyone in the chat have a great weekend. Most of all, can we check on any vulnerable people in your community, which is a great shout, mate. If you have got next door neighbours or people across the street, do check in on them, because this is a horrendous time at the moment with weather. I know the weather's going to break, but even just people who are a little bit lonely, it's a key to going to see these people is very, very important. Thanks as always as well on Twitter to Paul Tweedy, who's just sent us an inbox saying, give it a mention, Steve, that tomorrow's friendly is going to be streamed live and free on NUFC TV. Well, of course, with it being a friendly, that's great news for those people who can't travel, those people who are expats or whatever. Great for people who are even housebound, get a chance to see it. John Ball, my former Sunday League manager, assistant manager, goalkeeper. Good evening, mate. He says, come January, do you think there's a place for Wood? Oh, John, man. I'm always going to say that when Isaac is back fit. But also, do you think about a move out for Elliot Anderson? That's a good one. Well, I think Chris Wood will stay, and I think Eddie Howe has more or less said that. So let's look about Elliot Anderson. Would you loan him out, Steve?
No, I think that Elliot Anderson has and will have plenty of opportunities as the season progresses. Whether it's coming off the bench, and there will be occasions, cup games, for example, we might see him start on Tuesday night. Who knows? Then we've got the FA Cup coming up. Elliot is a super talent. I don't want the talent being wasted. I want to see him wearing a black and white shirt and playing for Newcastle United. There's benefits and there's issues, I think, with going on loan. He did really well, and I know that he didn't want to go to Bristol City. It's it's a well-known fact that he thought that dropping down to that level wasn't for him, and he was reluctant to go. But listening to Shola when we were over in Saudi, he actually explained that. He said, that Shola's role in getting a club, and that he was all set to go to a championship club, and then it fell through at the last minute, and Elliot was bitterly disappointed, and he had to be pushed to Joey Barton and to Bristol City because the club wanted him to go somewhere. It sounds to me like Elliot wasn't now in the situation because he's part of the first team squad that he was now for his career would be looking to then go back into the championship again. So no, I'm along the lines of now Elliot needs to be grasping the opportunity that the club gave him in the first team.
What about you, Keith? Would you loan him out?
I wouldn't. No, I think that you've got to get another Sean Longstaff out of Anderson, and I think he could go on and be that and more. I think he's a tremendous talent. I don't think things have gone all his way since he's come in, but when I look at the team and I see people, I'm thinking like sort of next year. If I was looking at a squad next year, I'd rather see Anderson's in than Fraser's or Murphy's, them kind of people. Lascelles. I like Anderson's got youth on his side. He's one of us, and I think he's got a great ability, and I think this coaching team will bring it out. So no, I wouldn't. I've just got to say something quick. Is I got here at 5:05, which I was late on, and I've got to get changed and be somewhere for 7 o'clock, which is only a few hundred yards away. So I'm going to have to dip out now, lads. But I just didn't want to let you down. And
thanks for coming on, Keith. I know, and I've got an appointment tonight as well, mate. So I'm going to dip off as well. So what we'll do is
thanks to everybody.
Thank you to you, mate. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.
See you next week. Great to have Keith on, as always. No loan for Elliot, please. No loan for Foden. No loan for Pools, Elliot. Keep him near the first team. The likes of Trips and Bruno will rub off on him. Good point, Sean. Mark says he hasn't really shone when he's had the chance. Talent is clear, but it just hasn't happened for him when he's played. Needs a goal up his backside to get it going. Has Fraser left the club? No, he hasn't. But obviously, he is keen on going. Led to believe if you believe the papers. So there's business to be done. Somebody mentioned earlier that there'll be, players. There will be players, popular players, who will eventually leave, and that's just football. That's the way it works, Steve, isn't it?
Yeah, we've seen it. All the way through. That players they 4 or 5 years and then they move on. Some players last 7 or 8. Some spend their entire career at the club. But there will be players that will move on. There'll be players who, they've had their opportunity and haven't been able to grasp it. There'll be players that other clubs are looking at and saying, we can do business. We'll have agents that will be touting. You mentioned Fraser there. Matt Ritchie's another one, I suppose. Paul Dummett. They're all players on the periphery, and you're looking at and thinking where they're going, what's going to happen to them. Are they still part of the squad, or would it be young, fresh talent that would bring in to be squad players rather than guaranteed first 11? So this is all the permutations that'll be playing out behind the scenes with Eddie Howe and with his team and Dan Ashworth when they're looking to really press forward. Somebody put up a question before. What do you think will hold us back, if anything? I suppose one of the things is injuries. The other things in players unhappy, and there's always be players that are unhappy. That could implement, but I think injuries is probably the one thing for Newcastle, and the strength, the depth of our squad, and whether we've got the quality to come in to replace the quality that's injured. I think that's probably the only thing that you would say that always impacts a club like Newcastle in the situation when you get into the top 3 and then you're trying to consolidate or trying to push forward. I think that's where it'll be. you hear it though at all clubs. You're hearing it at Liverpool, oh, we haven't got the depth. We haven't got the depth to manage the 55 or 60 games we're going to have to play this season, etc., etc. And that'll always be an excuse. But I think with Newcastle, that'll be the one thing that could catch up on us towards the end of the season. Injuries and then not having the quality to come in. And maybe that answers the question of will we replace or will we bring someone in that can step in for for Wilson if he gets injured as a main striker. And perhaps that's when maybe they wouldn't necessarily bring someone in, but that's where Isak comes, and it's a change of style, a change of technique, a change of the way that Eddie Howe sets the team up might be the only way that he can get round that if he can't bring a young up and coming striker who's willing to be there as an understudy for Wilson.
Okay, we've got a friendly tomorrow, Steve. Let's finish off on that. Obviously, Newcastle taking on Rio Vallecano. Not an easy game. Let's face it. These aren't any. They're not great shakes, but they're sitting mid-table. None of Newcastle's World Cup representatives are expected to feature, but Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier and Bruno are all now back training at Darsley Park, so one would imagine they'll be available for the more important game on Tuesday night. Isak and Emil Kraft are both continuing their rehabilitation from injury but aren't ready to play yet. Matt Targett, Carl Darlow, Matt Ritchie, Paul Dummett all travelled to Riyadh with the squad but didn't feature. With the exception of Dummett, all were seen in training on Wednesday. Also taking part in the session were Chris Wood and Joe Linton, who both came off with knocks, of course, in the 5-0 win over Al Hilal. As for the visitors, Senegal midfielder Pata Cisse was Rio's sole representative at the World Cup. He played 45 minutes of the 3-0 defeat by England. They have had a few friendlies, though, in the build-up to the game against us. They drew 1-1 in a friendly away to La Liga side Real Sociedad. That followed a training camp game in Turkey, where they had kickabouts against Fenerbahce, where they lost 3-1, and Galatasaray, where they won 1-0. Ex-Newcastle defender Florian Lejeune is part of their squad. Somebody said he was cup-tied. Might have been John. Not ineligible to play. I'm not so sure that is the truth. I think he'll be allowed to play. Tomorrow would be nice to give him a good a good round of applause if he is there, because he was a decent servant. Injury, of course, curtailed his career at St James's Park, and there's been a bit of PR and a bit of a few interviews kicking about with him. Don't forget as well, the League Cup tie has been rescheduled to Tuesday, 7:45 kickoff on Tuesday night. But tomorrow's game kicks off at 12:30. So don't be doing your usual pre-match routine and missing the game altogether. It is a 12:30 kickoff. So, Steve, what are you expecting from tomorrow?
I'm expecting Eddie Howe to be looking at the game with a view to Tuesday, to be perfectly honest. I think exactly what was said in the run through there, the players that perhaps won't feature, not just the World Cup players, but the players that are suffering from a few knocks. I think Chris Wood, they said it was a back spasm or a back injury, took a bit of a fall. And then it was apparently just a muscle twinge, and Joe Linton came off as very much as a precaution. It was interesting as well to note that when we were over there in Saudi, that what a great first half Murphy had, and then he was taken off in the second half and brought Fraser on. I think Murphy's certainly ahead of Fraser in the pecking order at the moment. I think Eddie Howe likes Murphy. I think listening to Murphy when we were there, chatting to him, listening to the conversation he had and during the Q&A, he's now a bubbly character. He's not the shy lad that he was when he first signed. He's bulked up as well, and you can tell he's enjoying his football and he's enjoying being part of Newcastle United setup. So I think it'll be very much a chop and change game. I think there'll be players coming in. I think somebody said, will Carriers start? Yes. Wouldn't be surprised if he did. Pope's obviously not available. Not sure on the fitness of Carl Darlow. So it'd be a great opportunity for Carriers, and then perhaps again on Tuesday night. So I think it'll be very much, like I say, a chop and change. Lots of substitutions in the second half. Players getting a run around. Players getting especially in the cold, because it will be bitterly cold again. Make sure you're wearing your hat, Steve.
Yes.
I'll wear mine.
Okay.
But I think just looking forward to being back at St James's Park after what's been, a 6 weeks layoff.
Yeah, that's the key. And that's the key. And looking forward to the more important game coming up on Tuesday. Okay, time to finish off with Julie's favourite part of the show. And thank you, Noah, for returning back to the good old faithful, mate. Thank you very much, mate. Another one on my block list, but it means I can play the cat. That's it. Been a fantastic show. Thanks to Keith. Thanks to Steve. And look forward to seeing you again next week, guys. We'll try and get it on maybe, I don't know, Thursday, maybe. We'll see. But we'll work something out. But we'll definitely have an Amigos next week. I'm not going to pre-record it because I know people enjoy it live. So we will sort something out via WhatsApp, Steve. But have a good weekend. See you tomorrow, mate.
And you. Take care. Bye, everyone.